I'm Jolene Wynn, and this is the Porn Addict's Wife podcast, episode number 174, If You Don't Love Him Like You Used to. I used to think of myself as the wife of a porn addict, but I do not think of myself that way anymore, and you don't have to either. In this podcast, I am going to teach you how to manage your mind and your emotions so that you can stop living your life around your husband's pornography addiction. I am going to teach you how to stop being the victim and how to conquer his pornography addiction, even if he never does. I'm Jolene Wynn. I am a certified life coach, and I am a member of the LDS faith and the wife of a former porn addict. And this is a podcast for the porn addict's wife. Hello, my ladies. How are you? I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I am going to start off by saying today, the day that this comes out, I'm recording it early, but on the day this comes out, it will be September 11th. And I hope you guys take a moment today to remember that day and all the people who passed away, who died in the Twin Towers and in the Pentagon and on the airplane, on the flight that went down in Pennsylvania, and to remember all of our first responders. I love September 11th. I've shared this with you guys before. My dad had an office in the South Tower of New York, and he was working actually at a big conference in Texas that day. He didn't go up there all the time. He mainly worked at an office in Delaware and Wilmington, but he would go up there. And so we had actually gone up just 3 weeks prior to September 11th. We had gone up and toured his office building, and at that time you could climb up to the very top. And so we went onto the roof of the South Tower, and we met everyone in that office. And so it was very close to home when it hit, and I got out of school early. That happened when I was in ninth grade. I was in ninth grade, and I was in Delaware, and nobody knew, of course, if you remember that day, nobody knew what was going on, what was happening. And I remember school let out early, and my mom came and picked us up. And I remember just listening to the radio on the way home. And I remember my mom, of course, immediately told me that I knew my dad was in Texas at like a big work conference, but obviously they grounded all flights. And so he and a couple of his staff members, they all rented a car and drove home. And I just remember not really seeing my dad for, obviously it took him a long time to drive home from Texas. They drove through the night, and it took him till the middle of the next day to drive home, but he was just on the phone for 24, 48 hours, 4 days until they got a head count and they were able to account for everybody in their office. And actually all of their employees made it out in time. And that was amazing. And they just have some incredible stories, but I just love September 11th. I'm going to be taking my kids to a memorial. We do this every year. We go to a 9/11 memorial that the town that we used to live in puts on. And then we are also going to be going for the town that we now live in is doing a walk around the river with their fire department. So I love this day. I love how after September 11th, everyone was so united and everyone was so patriotic. And that is, of course, how I always feel. So it's a beautiful day, of course, to also be sad with those who lost loved ones and are still, missing loved ones from their lives. And I just love teaching my kids about it and how important it is to keep them, remembering these things and remember all the heroes. Anyway, that's September 11th. Today is September 11th. I hope you guys take a moment to remember it. On another note, I wanted to let you guys know, for those of you who are interested in coming to the retreat, but you have some questions or you want to hear more details about it, I am doing a free Q&A call. It is this Thursday, September 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern, and you can go to my website, jolenewynn.com. You will see there's an announcement bar on the top, and that is where you can click to go sign up for the call so that you can come join us. Again, that's this Thursday, September 14th at 11 a.m. Eastern. Even if you can't make it live, then I would encourage you to sign up so that you can watch the replay, because I guarantee you I will answer your questions, or someone else will have the same question, and you can learn a little bit about it, what to expect. And I'm just going to talk about all of the things that we're going to be doing there, the purpose behind it, what it's going to be like, what you can expect. And I cannot wait to see who gets to come to this. It's already half full. There are 7 spots left. And this is a very intimate retreat. I know a lot of people that have thrown retreats that are a lot bigger than this. I keep this small on purpose so that I can spend the maximum amount of time with each of these ladies. It is a very intimate experience for 3 full days. And if you know that you want to come and sign up. Especially if you know you want to come to this call, because I have a special pricing option that will only be available to those who come and sign up for the call. So if you sign up for the call, you'll be able to know what that is. Again, go to my website, jolenewind.com. There's an announcement bar on top that's yellow, and it'll say click here to sign up for the free Q&A retreat call. And that's where you can click and you can sign up so that you get the Zoom link. All right. Okay, ladies, today I want to talk about something that came up this week, and this has come up so many times coaching not only my clients, but so many of you on free coaching calls and things like that. So I wanted to address it today. And this is if you feel like you love your husband less than you did before. This is very common. Again, so if you feel like this, then I don't want you to be alarmed. It doesn't mean anything. Okay, so just notice that number one, it's totally normal and it's totally okay. All right, today I want to talk a little bit about why that might happen and how you can shift it if you want to, and what happens if you don't want to. Okay? All right, let's dive in. So number one, if you feel like you love him less than you did before, or that love is different. I had a client who was saying, I feel like I'm not as in love with him, or I don't love him the same way. I still love him as a father. I still love him as a provider, but I just don't love him the same way. I don't have those same romantic kind of feelings for him because of everything that we've gone through, everything that he's done, everything that we've experienced, which makes total sense because love is a feeling that you feel from your thoughts. Okay? So if you have a thought that produces the emotion of love, it comes from a thought like, I love this person, or I'm really in love with him, right? And that will produce the feelings of love. Now, if you have different thoughts now than you used to, then it is going to produce different feelings or emotions. Okay, you with me? So if you had thoughts before that were producing feelings of love, then what were those thoughts? What were the old thoughts that you used to think, right? You used to feel like you loved him a lot more. What were you thinking? How is that different than what you think now? For example, the ones that my clients gave me, when I asked her this, I said, okay, well, how did you used to feel? She said, I used to feel like I was his whole world. That was her thought, not a feeling, okay? Even though she said, I felt like I was his whole world, that's her thought. Her thought was, I am his whole world. And when she thought that, she felt a lot of love. She felt like she was loved and desired and appreciated and all of those positive emotions. And I said, okay, well, how is that different now? What are the thoughts that you're having now? And how are those different than the ones that you used to have? And she said, well, now that I know about everything that happened, my thought is that I'm easily replaceable. And when she thinks I'm easily replaceable, she feels replaceable. She feels not enough. She feels like she's lacking in some way. And those are a lot of negative emotions that don't produce the emotions of love. Okay? So the first thing that I want you to notice, if you are not feeling like you love him as much as you used to, is to start becoming aware of the thoughts that you are thinking now versus the thoughts that you had when you felt like you did love him more, or you did love him differently than you do right now. The reason, ladies, that you feel differently about him now than you did previously is because of the thoughts that you're thinking, not because of what he's doing. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute, okay? But his actions do not create your feelings. Thank goodness. Again, I'm going to go over that in just a minute. But love is an emotion that you feel from your thoughts. Your thought could be, I'm his whole world. Or your thought could be, what else is he hiding? Or your thought could be, he doesn't love me as much as I thought he did. Because if he did, then he wouldn't have done this. Have you ever thought that? Right? If you think those thoughts, they're going to produce very different emotions than the thoughts that you previously had. Okay, so I want you to, again, just notice the thoughts that you're thinking now. Notice, get curious. Okay, what did I used to think? How did I used to feel? If I feel like I don't love him as much as I did before, What did I even feel like before and why? And those are all going to be because of your thoughts. And I would encourage you to write them down. This is an exercise that I had my clients do, is to write down what are the thoughts you think now and what were the thoughts you used to think. Let's take a look at them, okay? The second thing, if you're feeling like you don't love him as much as you used to, is I want you to understand that different emotions that you're having right now could be masking or hiding more positive emotions, okay? When you find out your husband has a pornography problem or he's talking to other women online or whatever it is that you found out, whatever the circumstance is, whatever the things are that he's doing, you're probably going to have a lot of thoughts. Thoughts like, I don't like that he did this. He shouldn't have lied to me. I hate that I found this out on our wedding anniversary. Whatever it is, you're going to have a lot of thoughts that produce negative emotion, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that the positive emotion that you used to feel toward him is gone, okay? It doesn't necessarily mean that the love you used to feel has vanished. It could be that right now, what's taking up the majority of your emotional capacity are those negative emotions, the negative emotions of distrust and anxiety and worry and fear and self-doubt and self-criticism and not enough. And all of those emotions, those negative emotions that have come up from the thoughts that you're thinking, okay, about what he's been doing, all of those could be at the forefront and they're just hiding the love underneath it. Does that make sense? Other emotions, maybe some negative emotions, are being highlighted right now. And if you process those, if you learn how to process those and then retrain your brain not to direct itself to those emotions, then it's possible to start feeling more love toward him again. Now, there are 100 different reasons, a million, a slew of reasons why your brain is holding on to these negative emotions. And that's for a different podcast episode, okay? We hold on to these negative emotions because we're scared of what it means if we let them go. We're afraid that if we let them go, it means that we're over it, okay? I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. We have so many reasons for why we want to hold on to the negative emotion, even though logically it makes no sense. Logically, you could sit here and tell me, I don't want to feel this. This is terrible. This is the worst I've ever felt. I don't want to do this. I would like all of this gone yesterday. And yet when you actually start looking at it, if I asked you, okay, but why are you holding on to it? Your brain has an answer. It has a reason. Most of it comes out from a fear. I'm afraid that if I let go, I'm afraid if I don't feel this emotion, it means XYZ. I'm afraid if I don't have this emotion with me, then I might get hurt again, right? Our brain is holding on to the negative emotion for a reason. And we'll, again, talk about that in a little bit in just a minute. But just notice that it doesn't necessarily mean that the love is gone or that it can't come back. It could just be that there's some negative emotion on top of it. And I promise you that it's possible for those negative emotions to go away. So once you learn how to process through those, then you'll be able to go to what's underneath. It just might be that there's some negative emotion that needs to be processed first. Okay? Number 3, if you're feeling like, again, you don't love him as much as you used to, is I want to offer that you can make space for both positive and negative, okay? Our own judgments of our feelings will suppress the positive emotion and the negative emotion, but in this case, the positive, okay? So for example, if you have thoughts like, I shouldn't still love him if he does that. Now that I know that he does this, I can't love him the same, right? What does it mean if I love him the same? If I love him the same as I used to, does that mean that I'm okay with his behavior, right? We often don't even allow ourselves to feel the positive, loving feelings toward our spouse because it feels wrong. Oftentimes it feels like we're condoning his behavior or like we're ignoring the negative way that we are affected by it. That's what our brain is afraid of, right? But it is possible to practice both allowing positive and allowing negative. Now, this is that cognitive dissonance that I'm always talking about. When you have two opposing thoughts, our brain wants to just get rid of one of them, okay? So if you have two opposing thoughts, if you have a thought like, man, I hate this guy, he's a jerk and he's ruined my life, and then also, yeah, but I actually really love him, your brain wants to get rid of one of them, and it will go with whatever the predominant emotion is, okay? So if you're feeling a lot of negative emotion, it's a lot easier to hold on to those negative thoughts than it is to allow space for the positive emotion. It almost feels wrong and irresponsible and naive to allow yourself to feel positive emotion toward your spouse, but I want to give you permission to do so. I want to give you permission to hold the negative and the positive. What if you simply practiced allowing yourself to feel something positive toward him? It might not be love for just a moment. Maybe it's just acceptance. Maybe it's that you find him funny. Maybe you give yourself permission to laugh at his joke. Maybe you give yourself permission to smile at him and to feel appreciative when he tucks the kids in bed. Whatever it is, start with something small and start allowing yourself to feel something positive toward him without making it mean that the negative doesn't exist or that he didn't hurt your feelings. This is like why we like to hold grudges, right? Because our brain says, well, we should never forget this. This is a really good idea. We should like hold this over his head forever. And you could if you wanted to, but it's kind of a lousy way to have a marriage, right? It just makes it miserable, not only for him, certainly, but also for you. And if that's not the marriage you want, then let's practice changing it right now, because that is completely within your control. Again, I can't change what he does, but we can change how you are affected by it, the way you experience it. And that's when you get all of your control, all of your power back in your life, in the ability to control the way that you manage and handle the way that you are affected by what's going on. Okay? The next thing that I want to offer is that his actions aren't what create your love or your not love. Okay. My client's thought was, I am his whole world, right? And that was while he was doing things she didn't know about. Isn't that nuts? Okay. He was watching pornography. He was reaching out to women online, and she had this thought, I am his whole world. And that made her feel very loved. Now, if it were true that his actions created her feelings, then it would have been impossible for her to feel this positive emotion toward him while he was doing that thing. Okay? This proves that his actions are not creating her feelings. Again, ladies, this is the best news ever, because this means that you are in control of him. Not that she has to change it to like, wow, I'm so glad he did that. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I am suggesting is that if you don't feel the way that you want to toward your spouse, it's not up to him to change it. It's up to you. Thank goodness. Ladies, we don't need him in charge of any more things that he can mess up, okay? Now, if it's true that his actions created her feelings, she wouldn't have had those positive emotions toward him at that time when he was actively pursuing those things, okay? Now, flip that to her thought right now, and he is actively working on this. He is seeking help. He is in recovery. He is not taking those actions, and her thoughts right now is, I am replaceable. And she doesn't have those same positive thoughts and feelings toward him, even though he is now doing all the right things. So if it were true that his actions were creating her feelings, then the situation would have been reversed. Then she would have felt really negative toward him, maybe not have known why, because his negative actions would have created negative emotions within her. But now, and then his positive actions now should be creating positive emotions within her, correct? No, because her thoughts are protecting her feelings. You guys, your thoughts protect you from the outside world. They are a barrier. They are the ones that put you in charge of how you feel. And this is, again, amazing, okay? Because it means that she gets to choose what happens next, no matter what he does. She gets to choose how she feels toward him. And she can decide whether or not she wants to increase the love she feels for him or not. Okay? Now, the last thing I want to offer is, let's say it's totally true. Let's say you don't love him as much as you used to. Let's say you don't love him in the same way. That was the thought that my client said. She said, I don't have the same kind of love toward him that I used to. And maybe it's totally true. If you have some kind of thought like that, I don't have the same kind of love toward him. I don't love him in the same way. Maybe it's true. Let's just say for argument's sake that it is. Okay? Maybe you don't love him the same way. Maybe you love him more. And here's why I say this. Because the love that you have for someone when they're doing something that you don't know is going on is very different than the love that you have for someone after you've already found out in whatever manner that occurred, okay? And you've decided to stay. That is a different kind of love, ladies. That is a deeper kind of love that requires more grit, more vulnerability, more courage. Okay, more allowance of the negative, because courage is kind of half a negative emotion. It doesn't feel awesome. Grit is kind of a negative emotion. It powers us forward. Determination. These are the kind of emotions that are required. Vulnerability, 100%, is not a fast and a fun, positive emotion. It is hard to feel. It is negative. It is one that our brain resists a lot because it is hard to feel. This deeper love is an allowance of the more negative, and that is what allows more positive in our lives. Okay, I want you to think about it like a sphere. Okay, a sphere that we are intentionally expanding. When we allow more of the negative with that vulnerability, the distrust, the pain, the heartache, the betrayal, etc., that sphere expands. Yes, we have more of the negative, but we also expand for more potential for positive, more connection, conscious trust, increased compassion, full acceptance, and a deeper love because it is completely raw and open. So ladies, maybe you don't love him the same, but maybe that is exactly how it's supposed to be. I love you ladies so much. I'll see you guys next week on a brand new episode, and take care. All right, ladies, it's time to rise up and take charge of your healing, and I have the best way for you to do it. I have created a lifetime access coaching program that I have designed specifically for you and exactly what you're going through right now. This is where I help you develop a personal mastery of all the tools that you're learning here on the podcast in order for you to create a permanent change. Go to my website, jolenewind.com. You will find all the information there, and you can sign up today, and we will start going forward. I can't wait to see you there.